The church smelled faintly of lilacs and candle wax when Martha Lowe lifted her chin and met the rancher's gaze. Her voice trembled, but her words did not. "No one marries a fat girl, sir. But I can cook." The room went still, a fragile silence that pressed against her chest. She could feel the wee eyes of the congregation burning through her dress, could hear the sharp intake of pity and the soft rustle of disapproval. Yet she stood unmoving, clutching the fabric of her skirt like a lifeline. Eli Harper's shadow fell across the aisle, tall, broad, and still as the church cross above them. His scar caught the morning light, a pale reminder of whatever ghosts he carried. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, steady, almost kind. "Ma'am," he said, removing his hat, "I ain't looking for pretty. I'm looking for peace." The whispers turned to gasps, but Martha only stared, uncertain whether he had mocked her or rescued her. And when he held out his hand, calloused and unshaking, something inside her, something smaller and long-buried, stirred to life. By the time the sun dipped behind the steeple, she was no longer Martha Lowe, but Mrs. Harper of Red Creek Ranch. The days at Red Creek Ranch settled into quiet repetition. Martha rose before dawn, the chill of the floorboards greeting her feet as she stoked the kitchen fire. Eli worked the pastures in silence, his words few and his presence heavy with unspoken things. She filled the house with the scent of bread and stew, but he rarely ate more than a few bites, always thanking her with a polite nod before retreating to the porch. At night, she would sit by the window, watching the wind move through the dry grass, wondering if this was what marriage felt like, companionship measured in distance. One evening, as she scrubbed the last dish, she heard laughter from outside. Two ranch hands were talking by the well. "Guess loneliness makes a man desperate," one said. The words hit her like a slap. Martha bit her lip until she tasted blood, tears threatening but never falling. When Eli returned later, he noticed the untouched supper and frowned. "Food's cold," he murmured, softer than she'd ever heard him. But I waited. For the first time, she lifted her eyes to his, seeing not pity, but something slower, something patient, like dawn waiting to rise. Winter arrived like a clenched fist, pounding the valley with wind and sleet. Martha wrapped blankets around the windows, her breath fogging the cold glass as Eli worked late in the barn, tending to the horses. When lightning split the sky, the world erupted in white. A heartbeat later, a streak of flame leapt from the roof, then the barn roared alive. Without thinking, she ran barefoot into the storm, the rain biting her skin. Eli was inside, shouting orders through the smoke. "Get back," he yelled, but she pushed past him, freeing a trapped mare before the loft collapsed in a shower of sparks. When dawn came, the barn was a skeleton of ash, and Eli lay half-conscious on the ground, his face blackened with soot. For days, she nursed him by the fire, his hand resting weakly in hers. While changing his shirt, she found a folded letter in his pocket, ink smudged but legible. "If I don't make it through another winter, tell Martha she gave this place back its heartbeat." Her tears fell onto the page, blurring his words into light. In that fragile moment, she realized he hadn't just seen her, he had chosen her. Spring arrived softly, carrying the scent of wild sage across the valley. The ranch, once hollow with wind, now hummed with life, chickens in the yard, the steady rhythm of Eli's cane tapping the porch. Inside, Martha kneaded dough at the kitchen table, sleeves rolled to her elbows, sunlight catching the flour on her skin. Eli watched her from the doorway, his eyes tracing the quiet grace of her movements. "You once told me no one marries a fat girl," he said, voice rough but gentle. She froze, hands hovering over the dough. "I remember," she whispered. A slow smile curved his mouth. "Guess no one never met a woman who could fix a broken man with a loaf of bread." The air shifted, lighter, warmer, as she laughed through her tears. He crossed the room, took her hands in his, and pressed them to his chest. His heartbeat was steady, strong. "You didn't just feed me, Martha," he murmured. "You brought me home." She looked up at him, seeing not the scar, not the silence, but the man who had waited for her all along. Outside, the wind moved through the fields, carrying their laughter into the endless blue.